Alright, so at this time you guys we're going to do the bones that are making up the head. Now the one I'm going to do first, which is the easiest view, which is pretty much the dorsal view, which is looking straight down on the head of the frog and comparing it to this diagram right here, which is looking straight down onto the head of the frog. So again, we have the spine that's coming up, and you'll see that there's this pocket, this space here. That's this divot, dark space here, which is called the foramen magnum, which is pretty much where the spine enters into a socket almost into the back of the head. We also have this. Now, the one that you can't really see because these are fused together, which would be these little bumps where that perfectly fits in, which is called the occipital condyle. Cross that one out. You do not have to study it because you cannot see it in the actual skull. Okay, then we go to here, which is the occipital, which is right here, which is again this area in the back of the skull, which kind of individs, is like an in-groove. Okay, and then if we go upward in the skull, you'll see right here in the middle of the skull, right here, almost it's here, and this kind of T-like structure. It's the frontoparietal bones of the skull. That would be this flat kind of V-shaped one and these two little ones shooting out to the sides. Frontoparietal. Now you'll see there's this one here that's also going outward. This one that reaches out to the side, almost to the ear or tympanic membrane area. This one going out to the side is called prootic, which would be this one and that one, the prootics. And then we see that there's a bone that looks almost like a hammer. It's called squamosal, and it's a kind of hammer-shaped one on both sides. Now this one, the bones that make up the tympanic membrane are kind of hiding it, but it actually does go right across here, and we can see the arm of the hammer right going down straight here. So it goes across and down underneath each ear. Okay. Then if we go up further, you'll see that pretty much above the frontoparietal, there's these two big bones right at the top, kind of by their nostrils, so they call these the nasal bones. So these two right here where its nostrils would almost be sitting would be the nasal bones. Okay. Now if we go over to the side, again, if we go to the very front bones, that would be these two little ones here. They look like they have grooves and divots in them. These two bones would be the premaxilla bones, which are these two in the diagram right here, which are these here, premaxilla, which means this whole area going to the side, all the way to the side, is the maxilla bone. Okay, so you have the maxilla going both ways. Now the other one that is practically impossible to see from just the skeleton is the pterygoid, so you can cross that one out. I will not test that one. Okay? Okay, this time pretty much we're going to go through what is the pectoral girdle and the arms of the frog. So again, I've turned the skeleton upward so I can see the belly side, because this is a ventral belly view of the bones. So if I actually turn the skeleton up and I kind of tilt it back, we're going to see now two major bones here that are right in the middle going across their shoulder area. So this first thin top bone up here is the clavicle bone. Then you see this big, fat, thick bone down here. This big, fat, thick bone here is the coracoid bone. Okay, so they have clavicle thin, coracoid thick. Okay, now I'm going to turn this back this way now, and you'll see that pretty much below the coracoid, if we look at our diagram here, there is two bones that go upward, which is omosternum and episternum, and there's two bones that go down, which is the mesosternum and the xyphosternum. So if I turn, let's see if I can rotate this a little bit. Excellent. If I rotate, pretty much down here on the chest region are these two bones below the coracoid. The one that's just kind of going vertically is the same as this one right here, which is the mesosternum. And then there's this big round kind of circular one here, this big round one at the very base of the chest region, which is this one right here, which is the xyphosternum. Now I'm going to rotate up again so that we can see the two bones that actually go vertically from the chest region. Let's see if I can angle that. Perfect. And so if we look, you see that there's this bone right in the middle called the omosternum, which would be this one right here, the omosternum. Again, it's reaching up above our two clavicles, the omosternum. And then there's this thin little bony plate that's at the bottom of their chin region, which is called the episternum, which we see right here, which is this round one, episternum. Okay? So those are all through the chest. Again, you have episternum, then you have this one here, the omosternum, then you have clavicle, coracoid, another straight one way down here, which I know can't really see it too well from this angle. This one is again the mesosternum, and the last one is the xiphisternum. Okay. Now I'm going to rotate back like this so we can just see the arms. So now we're looking at these arms coming out from the chest region. The first one we see is this big bone here and here going out to the sides. Again, I'm going to compare it to the diagram. This would be the humerus bone, which is right here, humerus. Then you'll see there's two bones that fuse together. You can see the groove right here, which is where they fused. So we have the two bones, the radioulna bone, and then we have the wrist, which all these little bones here would be the carpals. The first extension out in the hand is the metacarpals, we see right here, metacarpals. And then all these little extension bones are the phalanges again. Okay, and then they have all the phalanges. And that's it. All right, the first thing we're going to cover here, you guys, is the abdominal vertebra, which we see on our bone diagram over here. And on the vertebra, which is the spine, you'll see that there's these things that jut outwards, which are called the transverse process. There's these little bumps called the neural spines, and then you have this divot here, which is called the neural arch. So where we see that on the actual skeleton is, again, these vertical bumps here. In the middle of the spine would be the neural spines. These little ribs shooting out, tiny little extensions going to the side, would be the transverse process. And then the neural arch would actually be this area here in the middle that divots downward. So all of this is the neural arch. So again, you have neural spines, bumps, divots, neural arch, transverse process. All right, so this next area we're going to look at is pretty much the pelvic girdle and the hind limb of the frog. So again, if we're comparing it to our diagram, we have these two large hip bones. If we look at our diagram here, those would be these two large bones here, which are the ilium bones. We then have this bone in the middle of the frog going all the way down the middle. This is this one right here, which is the urostyle. And then you have these two bones that link the two hip bones that go across the sides, which is the sacral vertebra, which are these ones again right here, sacral vertebra, attaching our two ilium bones. Now if we go down here to the bottom, you'll see this thing that juts outward. This is the butt bone, which is again called the ischium. So this right here is the ischium in the picture, and this is the ischium on the real skeleton. Now you'll see that we also have what's called the pubis bone, which is right here, which is the center pubic region, front region of the frog. If I were to touch this one, it would actually be this one deep here inside the frog, and that would be the pubis bone. Okay. Now if we work outward from the hip region, we have these big thick bones that are first coming from the hip upward, and these big bones are called the femur bones. Now you'll see the femur actually has what looks like a round socket here, and the round socket fits into the hip bone region. Now this little socket here is called the acetabulum. So this is the acetabulum, which is the socket for the femur bone. Okay. Now if we go here, we have this bone here. Now you'll see it kind of looks like two that have been fused right down the middle. Again, you can see the groove right here pretty well, which is two bones that are fused together. This would be the tibiofibula bone, because the tibia and the fibula bone have fused together. Tibiofibula. Now if I'm going to rotate the frog skeleton just a tad bit here so it looks almost just like you can see from the side now. Let's see if I can angle a little bit better. There we go. Now if we angle this, we're going to be looking at the bottom feet-like extensions. Now there's two bones here in the lower part of their feet. The one on the outside, which is thicker, is calcaneum. Now some kids have tried to remember this by saying thick, it's stronger, titanium, calcaneum. So they think of something really strong like titanium. So that's the calcaneum. Now this little bone that we see here, and you can barely just see it sticking up on the front, which is this inside bone right here, if I'm touching it right there with the probe, that is the astragalus bone. Astragalus is the inside bone. Okay. Now if we look at the wrist, all the little bones that we see here, all these little tiny ones making up this wrist-like, ankle-like area would be the tarsals, all the little tarsals. And then we have the first extension out from the ankle region, which is the metatarsals. So again, if I rotate the skeleton here, this would be metatarsal, 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 metatarsal. All these first ones reaching out, metatarsals. Which means all of these extensions that look like fingers, all of these are called the phalange bones, okay, the phalanges. Now you'll see that they also have what looks like the beginning of a big, kind of like a big toe, okay, or like almost like a thumb-like extension. This little bone here, oops, let me turn so you can see it better. If I rotate maybe, there we go. If I rotate it up, again, you can see this tiny little thumb-like extension, which is called the calcar bone, which is this one right here, calcar. Okay? And that's it for the pelvic region.